Let us go then, you and I, when the evening is spread out against the sky like a patient etherized upon a table. Let us go through certain half-deserted streets, the muttering retreats of restless nights in one-night cheap hotels and sawdust restaurants with oyster shells. Streets that follow like a tedious argument of insidious intent to lead you to an overwhelming question, oh, do not ask, what is it? Let us go and make our visit.
Welcome to the Elixir podcast, where we ask people from all walks of life and from around the world what their favourite poem is and why it's important to them, why or how it speaks to their heart. If you have a poem that you would like to share and would like to appear on the podcast, please contact me at helenwing@me.com. Today, Lily is going to talk to us about the Lovesong of J. Alfred Prufrock, which is a poem by T.S. Eliot.
The yellow fog that rubs its back upon the window panes, the yellow smoke that rubs its muzzle on the window panes, licked its tongue into the corners of the evening, lingered upon the pools that stand in drains, let fall upon its back the soot that falls from his chimneys, slipped by the terrace, made a sudden leap, and seeing that it was a soft October night, curled once about the house and fell asleep. And indeed there will be time for the yellow smoke that slides along the street, rubbing its back upon the window panes. There will be time to prepare a face to meet the faces that you meet. There will be time to murder and create, and time for all the works and days of hands that lift and drop a question on your plate, time for you and time for me, and time yet for 100 indecisions and for 100 visions and revisions before the taking of a toast and tea.
That was beautifully read, Lily. Could you tell us what that poem has meant to you, what you associate it with, why is it important to you?
One of the things I love about Eliot in particular is that his writing is so enigmatic, and every time you read it, it seems to mean something different. And I first came across this poem when I was about 16 or 17, and I just loved the lines about the yellow smoke because, being a 16-year-old in school, I just read quite a lot of Dickens, and the yellow smoke of London was something, and the fog of London was something that's, trope generally in English literature, but also I grew up in Beijing and like within the smog of Beijing, and it just, that like the feeling of being inside with yellow pollution, sort of looking at your window panes was something that I could, I don't know. It
completely identify with.
Yeah, it was something. Yeah, it can identify with, and also can understand how intellectually you can acknowledge that it's not good, it's not nice, it's disgusting, but also it has a nostalgia for me as well. In the room, the women come and go, talking of Michelangelo, and indeed there will be time to wonder: do I dare? And do I dare? Time to turn back and descend the stair with a bald spot in the middle of my hair. They will say how his hair is growing thin. My morning coat, my collar mounting firm into the chin, my necktie rich and modest, but asserted by a simple pin. They will say, but how his arms and legs are thin. Do I dare disturb the universe? In a minute there is time for decisions and revisions, which a minute will reverse. For I have known them all already, known them all, have known the evenings, mornings, afternoons. I have measured out my life with coffee spoons. I know the voices dying with the dying fall beneath the music from a farther room. So how should I presume? And I have known the eyes already, known them all. The eyes that fix you in a formulated phrase, and when I am formulated sprawling on a pin, when I am pinned and wriggling on the wall, then how should I begin to spit out all the buttons of my days and ways, and how should I presume? And I have known the arms already, known them all, arms that are braceted and white and bare, but in the lamplight, downed with light brown hair. Is it perfume from a dress that makes me so digress? Arms that lie along a table or wrap about a shawl, and should I then presume, and how should I begin? But then also, as coming back to it after many years, the insecurities that Prufrock has are ones that people often have, I think, where on the one hand he's very insecure and self-critical and constantly aware of what other people are thinking of him and whether he's achieving enough or whether he's intellectual enough, but then is also quite aware that none of those questions really matter either. And my favourite image from it is that he's measured his life out in coffee spoons, where he's, tried to control everything so much and, had a plan for how he's going to achieve all of these things, when in reality it's just a spoonful of coffee and it doesn't really mean anything. And Eliot wrote this, it's one of his earliest poems. He wrote it when he was in his early 20s, I think, but he's not only planning his life out on how it's going to be when he's getting old and is sure that that's what's going to happen, but is also innately aware that he can't make those kinds of predictions. And what does it mean if he what will it mean when he's 85 and has planned all of those things to the T, and will it actually matter? And will, having sat with the old ladies talking about Michelangelo in a way that he can't really relate to or understand, having tea and marmalade, will that have any meaning for him later in life?
Yeah, especially when his preoccupations are what his place in the universe is,
Yeah.
And the big philosophical questions that preoccupy us in the cave of our minds, whilst being surrounded by the mannerisms of the bourgeoisie.
Yeah. I am no prophet, and here's no greater matter. I have seen the moment of my greatness flicker, and I have seen the eternal footman hold my coat and snigger. And in short, I was afraid. And would it have been worth it after all, after the cups, the marmalade, the tea, among the porcelain, among some talk of you and me, would it have been worthwhile to have bitten off the matter with a smile, to have squeezed the universe into a ball, to roll it towards some overwhelming question, to say, I am Lazarus, come from the dead, come back to tell you all, I shall tell you all, if one settling a pillow by her head should say, that is not what I meant at all, that is not it at all.
It's that contradiction of knowing the triviality of lots of the things we do in society,
but still
being
wanting the acceptance within it.
Yeah, and being in love with the girl with the long arms, that
well, that's
she represents everything that he's contemptuous of, and yet he yearns for it.
Yeah, but that's the other thing that is, I don't know if it's necessarily something that I necessarily relate to, but it's something that I can see is like somewhat tragic, is that it is the Lovesong of J. Alfred Prufrock. This is meant to be for someone else or about someone else, but it's clearly so self-indulgent, and he's spending his and it's a poem for trying to tell somebody how much he cares for them, but it's also about his own insecurities
and how he doesn't dare tell her, or exactly. Dare enter her world.
Exactly.
That's really sweet.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Lily, for talking to us about this poem that's important to you. I think a lot of people will identify with you because they have to. They often encounter Eliot at school. If there's one poet besides Shakespeare that they encounter, it's usually a little bit of Eliot.
Yeah, and most teenagers don't understand it or don't see that. It's Eliot's on the one hand so academic and so intellectual. You come at it at school as if it's intellectual when it's actually entirely visceral and about his internal life. So.
Yeah, and it's down to that cliche of being a boy standing in front of a girl,
exactly.
asking to be loved.
Exactly.
Yeah, and I love the idea that you realise that it is about youth and age, and that contradiction of time you encounter when you're young, the feeling of not being able to understand how eternity or notions of eternity function with contemporaneity. And that's really, really intense, I think, when you're young.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much for your reading, Lily.
No, I'm not Prince Hamlet, nor was meant to be, and an attendant lord, one that will do, to swell a progress, start a scene or two, advise the prince. No doubt an easy tool, deferential, glad to be of use, politic, cautious and meticulous, full of high sentence but a bit obtuse, at times indeed almost ridiculous, almost at times the fool. I grow old, I shall wear the bottoms of my trousers rolled. Shall I part my hair behind? Do I dare to eat a peach? I shall wear white flannel trousers and walk upon the beach. I have heard the mermaids singing each to each. I do not think that they will sing to me. I have seen them riding seaward on the waves, combing the white hair of the waves blown back when the wind blows the water white and black. We have lingered in the chambers of the sea, by seagulls wreathed with seaweed, red and brown, till human voices wake us and we drown.
If you're a regular listener and are enjoying the podcast, it would mean the world to me if you could hit the follow button on your podcast app. And if you have a moment, leave a review and a 5-star rating. Remember, you can find the poems that feature in each episode on my website, helenwing.com. If you'd like to support the production costs of our Elixir Poetry podcast, please feel free to buy me a coffee. Thanks for listening.